Dragon House, the strongest Targaryens in history. As shown in the House of the Dragon series, House Targaryen has ruled Westeros thanks to powerful and influential people. The House of the Dragon series is considered a prequel to the Game of Thrones series and has certainly managed to attract the attention of fans during this period because this new series follows the story of one of the most interesting periods of time in the land of Westeros, the war between the Targaryen family, also known as the Dance of Dragons. It seems that HBO has learned from its mistakes with the series Game of Thrones, and most importantly, the series House of Dragons is based on one of the completed works of George R.R. Martin, the Book of Fire and Made Fire and Blood, which focuses on the history of the Targaryen family. In this article, we introduce some of the most powerful members of the Targaryen family throughout history. Be with us. 10. Rhaegar Targaryen. Rhaegar Targaryen. Rhaegar Targaryen is one of the most influential and skilled people from the Targaryen dynasty, who is best known for his death in front of Robert. Unlike his father, he was kind and popular among the people and always tried to keep the land in peace. He also had great skill in fighting. The seeds of his destruction were planted when he won a tournament at Harrenhal and presented the Rose Crown to Lyanna Stark instead of her husband. Of course, it should be noted that in the next match he lost to Robert. This type of competition was also seen in the first episode of the Dragon Family series. 9. Brynden Rivers. Brynden Rivers is better known as the Three-Eyed Raven, and fans of the series Game of Thrones are also familiar with it. Before becoming a blood dragon, he was the commander of the Night's Watch. He was a great leader and warrior who deserved this title. Unlike most of his people, Brynden preferred the bow and arrow and had a good shooting power. Now known as Baladron, he is effectively considered an old god, the limits of his ability and powers of vision still unclear. 8. Damon Targaryen. It is said that the Targaryen family, in addition to great men, has also delivered terrible monsters to society. Damon Targaryen is both of these things. He is holding a Valyrian steel sword called Dark Sister, the same sword that Aemon Targaryen wielded. Either way, Damon Targaryen was a great warrior and had a huge impact on the army. He was the first and greatest guard commander of King's Landing City throughout history. Despite having a noble appearance, he is a fierce warrior, and his dragon named Caraxes is considered one of the most terrifying dragons since the legendary dragon Balerion. Matt Smith plays the role of Damon Targaryen in the House of Dragons series. 7. Eager Targaryen. For better or for worse, Eager Targaryen was best known for his military prowess. Although he was not very popular among his brothers and sisters, no one could question his military skills. He didn't have a sword or shield and used a big mace to fight his enemies. His discipline and military prowess made him known as a great general in the war. Nevertheless, his rule has been surprisingly relatively peaceful. 6. Eager Rivers. Eager Rivers is one of Aegon IV's bastards and is one of the most prominent warriors in the Blackfyre Rebellion. In the Blackfyre Rebellion, several bastards of Aegon IV vied for power. Eager Rivers often teamed up with Baladrian, another illegitimate child of Aegon IV, and was actually inspired by his fighting style. Baladrian attacks with planning, stealth, and from afar, and Eager is tough, skilled with weapons, and with improvised tactics. Despite their cooperation, they eventually faced each other, and Eager Rivers also gouged out one of Baladrian's eyes. After the Blackfyre Rebellion declined, he fled to the free city of Tyrosh, where he formed the Golden Company. This mercenary army became one of the most famous and feared mercenary armies in Westeros history. 5. Merciless Rhaegar. Rhaegar the Cruel truly deserves his title. He is probably the most hated Targaryen king in history, and his name is always bad. He put down this faith militant rebellion and did so with great bloodshed and carnage. He was the only descendant of Rhaegar Targaryen who retained the throne, and although he had the military power of his ancestor, he had never smelled justice or thought. He lived a very violent life and, unlike many Targaryen kings, died on the Iron Throne. 4. Visenya Targaryen. Visenya Targaryen. Visenya Targaryen, was Aegon I's chief military advisor, and she was able to prove herself well for this title. He rode a dragon named Rhaegar, and his sword was named Dark Sister, and was known as a ruthless and realistic warrior. Although there was a lot of discrimination against women in Westeros, she was able to overcome this issue and prove her skill in battle to everyone. In fact, it was he who created the Kingsguard of the best warriors in Westeros. 3. Daemon Blackfyre. Daemon Blackfyre was the first and greatest contender in the Blackfyre Rebellion. He is named after the old sword he wields, the same sword that Aegon used in his conquest of Westeros. He was tall, strong and handsome, and had all the characteristics of a Targaryen, but he was considered a bastard and did not have the name of the Targaryen family. His ability in battle had caused his father to give him the Blackfyre sword, and in the battlefield, he was able to prove himself well and was almost invincible in hand-to-hand combat. The reason for his death was his honor. He had lost a person named Gwaine Kubri in hand-to-hand combat, but he was trying to help him, and this also made it possible for Balerion to throw several arrows at him and kill him. Take off. 2. Aemon Targaryen. Aemon Targaryen is also known as the Dragon Knight, and he is known as the best knight in history. Unlike many Targaryens who were kings and princes, he chose to become a member of the Kingsguard. He was able to quickly rise to the top of the royal guard and became very popular. In fact, Aemon Targaryen is the person Jaime Lannister was trying to become. In any case, many people believe that Aemon Targaryen is the most honorable member of the Targaryen line in history. 1. Aegon the Conqueror. Aegon the Conqueror is considered the first and greatest Targaryen to set foot in Westeros. He and his two sisters, his wives, conquered Westeros with a small army and 3 dragons. Aegon may not be as great a warrior as Aemon, but he has established himself as an outstanding king in Westeros. All the kings after Aegon tried to make him their model. As an outstanding leader, he was ruthless in battles but just in ruling. His dragon named Balerion the Black Dread. Balerion the Black Dread was also considered a very big and terrible dragon whose skull was seen in the first episode of the Dragon Family series. In the end, Aegon I is considered the reason for the presence of the Targaryen family in Westeros and their rule over this land, and it makes perfect sense that he is among the most powerful Targaryens.